Minister says that they will be implementing retaliatory tariffs. You said if that were to happen, that you would be responding with large-scale tariffs. Will you be following through with that promise?
Well, absolutely, but we had a very good conversation. Mark called me today at 10 o'clock. We put out a statement. We had a very, very good talk. He's going through an election now, and we'll see what happens, but we have Liberation Day, as you know, on April 2nd, because, and I'm not referring to Canada, but many countries have taken advantage of us, the likes of which nobody even thought was possible for many, many decades, for decades. And, you know, that has to stop. We're going to end up with a very good relationship with Canada and a lot of the other countries. Some we probably won't. It won't be so pleasant. But I think most countries are agreeing with me. They actually, many of them have actually apologized. They said, look, we have taken advantage. And I don't blame them as much as I blame the people that stood. In this case, I can say the men, because so far they've been all men, haven't they? But the men that sat right there and behind the Resolute desk, mostly the Resolute desk, you know. I don't know if you know, you have a choice of 7 desks. The Resolute is the one I like, but some chose other ones. But they sat right behind a desk right in this location, and they let our country be hurt very badly. But I didn't do that. So, but we had a very good talk, the Prime Minister and myself, and I think things are going to work out very well between Canada and the United States. Yeah, please, go ahead.
Mr. President, how are the talks with India on tariff going on, and what is the expectation from India? How much do you want them?
Well, as you know, Prime Minister Modi was here just recently, and we've always been very good friends. India is one of the highest tariffing nations in the world. You know that. I know. Thank you for shaking your head, but it's brutal. It's brutal. They're very smart, and he's a very smart man and a great friend of mine, actually. And we had very good talks. I think it's going to work out very well between India and our country. Very, very well. And I want to say you have a great Prime Minister.
Mr. President, there's been a very serious earthquake in Burma, Myanmar, today, with up to several hundred killed.
Yeah.
The military regime there has asked for help from anybody.
Yeah, we're going to be helping. We've already alerted the people. Yeah, it's terrible what's happened. It's helping. We've already spoken with the country. Okay, please.
Mr. President, yesterday you asked Representative Stefanik to stay in her seat. Can you explain your reason for that? Did it have anything to do with the tight polling in the Florida district that former Representative Waltz held?
Well, I think we're doing, yeah, I think we had, as you know, we have a few elections going on, and she is phenomenal, number one. She is a friend of mine, and she was going to go to the United Nations, and I said, look, there's a lot of room for doing that or something else, but she's very popular in her district, and I didn't want to take a chance. I don't even know who else is running. I assume somebody else would have been running, but if she runs, she can't be, you never want to say can't be beaten, but I think can't be beaten. She's very, very well-liked and very smart. And I said, Lise, would you do me a favor? We cannot take a chance. We have a slim margin. We don't want to take any chances. We don't want to experiment. And she polls like I do. I won her district, as you know, by a lot of points. And she also does very well there. When it comes to Florida, you have 2 races, and they seem to be good. It's a Trump plus 32 area. The one thing is they're spending like $12 million, and our candidate doesn't have that kind of money, spending much less than that, like maybe 1/12, about $1 million, a little bit more than $1 million. So the airwaves are blanketed, and you never know what happens in a case like that. I won it by 32 points. And it's very, very strong. It used to be Democrat, but when I came along, they liked me for whatever reason. You'll have to explain that, but they liked me. We're way up. But you don't know what happened. Second district, who seems to be in pretty good shape, but likewise, he's being outspent about 5-1. So we don't want to take any chances. So I went to Elise and I said, Elise, do you mind? Very highly rated person, you know, she was a real leader. And she will be again. I spoke with Mike Johnson. They're going to put her in a high leadership position. But will you mind staying in Congress? Because we don't want to take any chances. And it's as simple as that. It's basic politics. It's politics 101. She's very popular. She's going to win. And somebody else will probably win, too, because we did very well there. I did very well there. But the word probably is no good So I really appreciate her doing it. She's doing me a big favor when she does it, because she was all set to go to the United Nations, and she would have dealt with Putin and Zelensky and everybody else, and she would have been very effective. But we really don't want to take any chances, because it is tight.
Mr. President,
No, go ahead, please.
Thank you, sir. You and your team apprehended a top 3 leader in the violent gang MS-13 yesterday, just 30 minutes outside of Washington, D.C. What has made you and your team so effective in finding, locating, apprehending, and deporting these violent, illegal migrants?
I love this guy. I wish more people would ask questions like that. But thank you. That's very nice. I appreciate it. And they happen. All you're doing is being fair with you when you ask a question in that way. Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and all of the rest of law enforcement. And I think we have to include ICE and Border Patrol, you know, Paul of Border Patrol, the whole group from Border Patrol. They're so incredible, and it's, you know, dangerous stuff, hard stuff. And it's really an unforced error, because these people were allowed into this country. They shouldn't have been in this country. They would have never been in this country. We're getting rid of some of the worst criminals in the world. They came out of jails and mental institutions from all over the world. But Pam and the whole group, and Kash, who's here, and it's so good to have him. I see him all over. He's working 24 hours a day, but the job they've done is incredible. And they caught one of the worst criminals in the world, I guess, in terms of evilness. You don't get any worse than the MS-13 guys and the Tren de Aragua guys. You could flip a coin. It's a rough group. And, you know, the big thing is they have to be able to do their job. I know I was watching it on television like you, and I saw the home that he lived in a good area, but boy, they had a lot of weaponry in there, right? Highly sophisticated, really brutal stuff. So I appreciate the question, and I just want to thank Kash and Pam and the whole group for doing a fantastic, and the local law enforcement who's been so terrific, even first responders. So I want to thank everybody, and thank you very much.
Mr. President, I want to say, first of all, happy Women's Month. You do so much for women by, first of all, keeping men out of women's sports, and you platform so many.
That was an easy one. That was crazy.
You've platformed so many great women, like your Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles. You also have Caroline Levitt doing a great job as press secretary. Now Alina will be joining as well. Since Democrats seem to struggle answering this question, I wanted to ask you, what is a woman, and why is it important that we understand the difference between men and women?
Well, it's sort of easy to answer for me, because a woman is somebody that can have a baby under certain circumstances. She has a quality. A woman is a person who's much smarter than a man, I've always found. A woman is a person that doesn't give a man even a chance of success. And a woman's a person that in many cases has been treated very badly, because I think that what happens with this crazy issue of men being able to play in women's sports is just ridiculous and very unfair to women and very demeaning to women. And that's got to be about a 94%. I read today it was a 94% issue. And I watched the other day, a congressman, a Democrat congressman, fighting for the fact that men should be allowed to compete essentially in women's sports. And I say, I hope they keep that going, because they'll never win another election. That's a big deal. But women are basically incredible people, do so much for our country, and we love our women, and we're going to take care of our women. Yeah.
Mr. President, what was your reason for pardoning Trevor Milton?
Highly recommended by many people, that was taken advantage of. He did a business deal like in Utah, as I have it. And I think he was exonerated, and then they brought him into New York, where he had a rough road. I mean, he was exonerated. It was a big celebration. Again, I don't know him, but they say it was very unfair, and they say the thing that he did wrong was he was one of the first people that supported a gentleman named Donald Trump for president. He supported Trump. He liked Trump. I didn't know him, but he liked him. It was in Utah, and they went after him. They went after his family. They went after his businesses. And he was, I believe, exonerated, and then they went after him again, and they brought him this time into Manhattan, and he had nothing to do with Manhattan. And they got him, And I said, that's unfair. There are many people like that. They support Trump, and they went after him. You don't realize this is a vicious group of people that were in this office before us. This is a vicious group. They're violent. What they were doing to people, and you could go story after hundreds and even thousands of stories, and they went after this man. And when I heard about it, I said, nope, not going to happen. They destroyed 5 years of his life. He fought for 5 years of his life, and he did nothing wrong. And he's a good person. And basically, I had these fantastic recommendations about him from people that you know very well, all top-of-the-line people. They thought it was a horrible thing. There are many such cases, by the way, many such cases.
Mr. President, should Americans buy cars now if they want to avoid
Please go
higher
ahead.
prices?
Thank you, Mr. President. Have you spoken with Vladimir Putin about buying weapons from Iran and from North Korea?
Not about specifically that, no, I haven't.
Well, that seems to be an issue that you want to make important is...
Well, I'm making all issues important. You got a lot of important issues. You also have the children issue that's important. You know, a lot of children are living in Russia right now. That's a horrible situation that would have never taken place if I was and the country is being decimated. But, you know, they're losing 2,500 on average young men, mostly men, almost in all cases men, actually, but young men every single week, 2,500, and they're not from our country. They're from Ukraine and they're from Russia, but it's human lives, and if we can get it stopped, and I think we're making progress. But there's a lot of ill will between the parties.
Should Americans buy cars now if they want to avoid higher prices? And then just to
No,
follow
I don't
up-
think so. I think you're going to have a country that's going to boom. I just spoke to Tim Cook of Apple. He's investing $500 billion in the United States, which he would have never, he told me, I would never have done it if you lost the election, and I would have never done it if there wasn't a tariff system that is an incentive for people to come. And remember, there are no tariffs. All you have to do is do your work right here. If you have your company here, if you build your product, make your car, or whatever it is you're making, no tariffs. And we're going to have, I think, Scott, I would say we're close to $4 trillion, even going close to $5 trillion. Now, we haven't had that for years. If you add up years, they haven't invested like that. And here we are in 2 months. We think we're up to close to $5 trillion of investment. They're going to build car plants. They're already building. Many of them have already started. And if you build a car in the United States, and one thing that I just spoke with John Thune about, I just spoke to Mike Johnson about, Speaker, we're going to do something that has never been done in this country before. I'm very proud to say it was my idea. And so sometimes a simple idea, they say, how'd you think of that one? It's so simple, it was never done. If you buy a car in the United States that's made in the United States, if it's manufactured here, when you borrow money, if you borrow money, you have interest payments, we're going to let you deduct the interest payment for income tax reasons. And I think that's going to more than pay for itself. I think people are going to be, they've never had a deduction. You know, deductions are supposed to be for like rich people, and it's unfair to have that. But rich people are, I think I know more about deductions than any human being on earth. But, you know, the truth is that people that are middle-income people that buy a car and actually have to borrow money, they're going to now get an interest deduction on their car if it's made in the United States. If it's made someplace else, that won't take place. But car companies, as you know, are already expanding and building new plants. They've already started. And I think you're going to see numbers. Howard, you're seeing it. And Scott, you're seeing it. You're going to see numbers the likes of which you've never seen before. Yeah, please go ahead.
The vice president is in Greenland right now. Do you have plans to expand U.S. military presence in Greenland? Is that
Getting along very well with Greenland. We get along very well with Denmark. We've always had a good relationship. Denmark does a lot of business in the United States. We don't do so much there, but they do a lot of business in the United States. And I think they want to see, I think everybody wants to see that work out. We need Greenland, very importantly, for international security. We have to have Greenland. It's not a question of, do you think we can do without it? We can. If you look at Greenland right now, if you look at the waterways, you have Chinese and Russian ships all over the place. And we're not going to be able to do that. We're not relying on Denmark or anybody else to take care of that situation. And we're not talking about peace for the United States. We're talking about world peace. We're talking about international security. And right now, you look at it, you have warships all over the place going through right along Greenland. We're not going to let that happen. We cannot let that happen. Or if it's going to happen, we have to be protective of our country. And more important, really protection not only of our country, of the world. So Greenland is very important. In modern day weaponry makes Greenland 100 years ago, less so. But also,
Would you like to visit Greenland?
if you notice, also some of those, you could call them roadways, okay? They're water roadways. But some of those areas are opening up, and they're opening up icebreakers out there. They're opening them, and by just nature, they're opening up, and they're headed right into China, right into Russia, and we have no choice. The answer is he's there with his wonderful wife, Usha. They're there right now. They landed a couple of hours ago, and they will represent us well. But Greenland's very important for the peace of the world, not us, the peace of the entire world. And I think Denmark understands it. I think the European Union understands it. And if they don't, we're going to have to explain it to them.
Would you like to visit? Would you like to visit Greenland, Mr.
Iranian
Trump?
drones are
President.
attacking
Thank you, Mr.
Ukraine every
President.
day.
Let's say it.
Iranian drones are attacking and killing Ukrainians every day. Why aren't you doing something about that?
Well, we're going to see what happens with that. I'm getting reports on that, and we're looking at a report. You're right. They make a lot of drones. Iran makes a lot of drones. They make very effective drones, too. They do very effectively at some things, but Iran is very high on my list of things to watch. And as you probably know, I sent them a letter just recently, and I said, you're going to have to make a decision one way or the other. And we're going to either have to talk and talk it out, or very bad things are going to happen to Iran. And I don't want that to happen. My big preference, and I don't say this through strength or weakness, my big preference is we work it out with Iran. But if we don't work it out, bad things are going to happen to Iran. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Guys, let's go. Come on, guys. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone. Quickly,
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Let's go, guys. Thank you. Let's go.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Please wrap up as fast as possible. Thanks.
Yes. Yes, again.
We're taking everything out right now? Sure.
Good.